Welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk, guys. Thank you for tuning in. So today we're joined by a guest for the very first time. Interview that we're gonna do. So so how can I describe him as?
Like I said, my dog, I'm indescribable.
Oh,
So I'll just keep the cloak on for now, But my identity, like I said, is not very much important more than my ideas. So I'm not really here to peddle my identity more than share views, like I said, and trade, ideas. That's the whole purpose. So not very much interested about identity politics.
Okay, so
Yeah.
guys, a disclaimer: the views of the people here do not reflect the page any kind. So without any further ado, let's jump into it. So over to you, President.
So today's interview will be centered around religion, right? So the first question that I'm gonna ask our guest right here now is religion a product of colonization, or Christianity to be specific?
Is religion a product of colonization? Of course, religion is a product of colonization. In its essence, it's designed to shackle the masses socially, economically, based on the colonizer project. So, like I said, religion is basically a means to an end for the colonizer race to protect their power structures, to protect their economy, to protect, they use religion hand in hand with their political systems. So if the black man really wants to free himself, he cannot or he may not subscribe to Western religions or Eastern religions or Western mode of politics. Of course, politics in itself is not a Western thing, but the current mode of politics that we are executing right now, it's a Western modality. So religion is, in essence, a means to an end to keep Africans politically and economically in check, so that they never really break into the power structure. That's the whole point of religion. It's not really to save us, because if the enemy race were really our benefactors or came with a benevolent heart, they would have, and religion was good for us. They would have kept religion to themselves, just like they've kept the land to themselves that they took from us. Just like they kept the economy for themselves, So it leaves much to be desired if they're going to hand over the religion to us. And if you look into the essence of religion itself, you find that religion is in most ways a concoction of lies and the truth passed along as truthful. The entire thing is one truthful thing. So religion in essence is a project of colonialism.
So both Eastern and Western religions.
Yeah, all religions are really, if I must say something extremely radical right now, really there's no one to worship in reality. There's nothing we humans can do to please God. Like Kanye West said, he says, we're all dead under God. God is above us all. You understand me? So no amount of you being mad at God is going to make God feel a type of way. God doesn't even have feelings to begin with. Everything comes from him, including feelings. So there's nothing you can do as Limyoli to make God angry at you. God is above anger. God is an all-knower. So religion is just basically, religion in my opinion, it's a project to delay Africans from knowing who they truly are. Spirituality, on the other hand, it's a totally different topic. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered the question or I said a mouthful. I don't know. Yeah.
But okay, do you have any idea what were the beliefs maybe, or something that is similar to religion that was practiced before colonization happened?
Of course I have an idea. I wouldn't project such seemingly radical ideas, but yet I didn't have an answer to what we were before colonization. Yes, we did have our spiritual systems. Like I said, there's stark differences between our religion and spirituality. We are a spiritual people in essence. Those two aren't the same things. Religion is it's basically the institutionalization of spirituality, but the lowest form, not even spirituality itself, it just uses spirituality. We did have, for instance, we as black people, we believe that God is within us, not in the sky, first and foremost. That a man has two sides to himself, his lower self and a higher self. You know, the lower self represents your animalistic, your desires self, and the higher self represents your spirit. Hence the word in English that says individual. You know that in English duality means two. Indivi means indivisible duality, you know. So you have two sides in yourself. You have your lower self and your higher self. Your higher self is what you can tune into, the all-knowing self. The lower self, it's the instinctual, the animalistic side that drives your everyday, that controls your biology and everything else. But your higher self is your true self. This is just a house after all. In Xhosa, we call the body umzimba. Umzimba represents umzi, a house. Umzi, mba, a house is where the spirit lives. This is basically not you. This is a house that houses your spirit. You understand me? So this is your lower self. The house is actually the lower self and its desires and everything else. And the spirit is your true essence. It's housed by umzimba. Hence, Bantu people called the body umzimba. They understood that this is just a house. Yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question, Michelle. Yeah.
I think you even answered our second
Yeah, the
question.
second question.
Second question was religion used to blindfold our ancestors from the truth?
Yeah, just to reiterate what I said earlier on, religion, like I said, I like to emphasize this point as much as I can. Religion is in essence something that the enemy races that keep our people at bay, you know, under perpetual slavery, despite the modalities of slavery. It could be violent slavery, it could be mental slavery, any type of slavery or physical slavery. Until they use religion so that we don't break into knowledge of ourselves. You know, we then identify with the religious politics as a part of our own and forsake our own identity. I think before they could even, if I may, just to explain further, religion is multifaceted on the hands of the enemy. First and foremost function it serves to make sure that Africans never truly discover who they are. Secondly, it is to make sure that, as ignorant as they are about themselves, is to see to it that Africans do not break into global power, economically speaking. So they're basically protecting their economic system. If you think I'm not making sense, look at the stats in terms of ownership in the country alone, in terms of land, in terms of companies, in terms of real estate, in terms of anything you can think of that's of value. It's owned by them, and they give us religion, understand me, which has no functional value for us besides our imagination. Yeah.
Our team member here who organized these questions referred us to Isaiah 26 verse 14. It reads as follows. I don't know the context of this verse, but yeah. They are dead, they shall not live, they are deceased, they shall not rise. Therefore hast thou visited and destroyed them, and made all their memories to perish.
Perfect. that's a perfect. Although I don't subscribe to the Bible, like I said, if you remember my note about the Bible, I was still on. Yeah. So hence my note. I said the Bible is a concoction of the truth and lies. Limyoli, you dig? So the Bible is a concoction of the two. So what the enemy races do, they take the truth, you know, or lies, basically take the truth and wrap a lot of lies around it, you know, or take the lies and wrap a lot of truth around it. And then pass the entire ball of truth, but in essence, you know, wrapping lies, and then pass the entire thing as the truth. So a non-discerning eye, in turn, that's easily deceptive, that cannot discern in turn beyond face value, will take the Bible as a truthful thing. The reason I'm saying this is that in the Bible, there are truthful things, and there's a lot of lies at the same time. Point in case, the Bible does say, slave, obey your master. I don't think God concerns himself with slavery. That has nothing to do with God. God is above viciousness and violence, you know. That's not a part of God, you know. Although it can be argued that violence comes from God, but God is not a violent being. God is the perfection of goodness. Is the ultimate form of goodness there is, you know. God, Africans also believe that God knows everything, but God has not experienced everything. You understand me? That's why God created human beings in the form of human bodies, so that you can derive experience. Although God knows everything, God lives through us. Hence, Africans believe that God lives inside of us. You understand me? So for God to have an experiential existence, he took himself, in a sense that he took himself and put himself inside of human bodies, which is still himself, and created personalities. Personalities come about experiences, like the soul is the same thing as the personality. It is important to make a distinction between spirit, soul, and mind. Those are three different things. The spirit is God himself. The soul is you being born for the first time as a character in Limyoli. Whatever formative experiences that you take up as you grow older are going to create your character, which is your soul. You understand me? And so hence people can also say that the eyes are the windows of the soul. We can see how much you've gone through, how much you've struggled. They don't say the eyes are the windows of the spirit, but of the soul. So the soul is a culmination of all the experiences that make up your character. So it's important to understand those things. That's how Africans think. That's what we've viewed, but now we've been bastardized with foreign ideas of spirituality and religion that are meant to suppress us, and so that we can lose our identity. Hence you said our memories have been taken away from us. Memory is a very important thing. I'll explain later on after this question what do I mean by memory. It's a very, very important thing. If you take away one's memory, you take away who they are. Like functionally speaking, you couldn't even wear this t-shirt to you today if you didn't have memory that you have this t-shirt. You couldn't even comb your hair if you didn't have the idea, the learned behavior of combing your hair. You couldn't have washed yourself if you didn't have the learned behavior of washing yourself. So memory is functional to a people. Memory and history are one and the same thing. History is just collective memory of a people. Memory is just individual memory for a person. So without history, we're nothing, because history, the present is a function of history. Everything there is that you've learned, it's derived from the history. There's nothing you can do without history, despite them teaching us foreign history and dangerous histories. But story for another moment. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. A very famous statement made by the. Okay, what am I saying?
It's a question.
A very famous statement made by Christians. That ancestors are demonic. Are ancestors demonic?
I would answer that not for the sake of answering you, because you know the truth. I'd answer that for someone who might be struggling with that dichotomy, that the ancestors are demonic. By implication, it implies that Christian figures are saintly, if that's the word, or good, as opposed to the opposite of demonic should be saintly, right? Yeah. So that seems like a setup for me, so that to set people up in perpetual sense of lack of knowledge of self. Ancestors couldn't be demonic. Point in case, your father is your ancestor, dies today. Your father, your grandfather, dies today. The one who raised you, taught you how to drive. So does he all of a sudden become demonic? He becomes your ancestor. He ascends to a higher realm. Does he become demonic? Personally to you. Your grandfather lives with you as we speak. Of course, so how can possibly, if your grandfather is not demonic to you, right? So can his grandfather be demonic to him? So his grandfather is your great-great-grandfather. So is he also demonic to you if he's not demonic to him? So that logic doesn't make sense there. So ancestors couldn't be demonic in the first place, because you are here because of your great forefathers that made sacrifices for your existence. And they still make sacrifices beyond the physical realm, wherever they are right now. They're seeing to it that your life goes according to your wishes, as long as, I don't want to get into the topic, but as long as you maintain contact with them. So the enemy races, one thing they learnt about us was that we had a knowledge of God, a superior knowledge of God. You understand me? So they knew that in order to disarm the black man, because the black man, material surroundings, mental knowledge, or whatever, mental self is hugely rooted in the spiritual self. So they realized that we had a profound relationship with our ancestors. So they had to destroy that in order to destroy us. So they had to demonize that in order to destroy, because our memory was based on our ancestral selves. Because remember, the black man, another thing about the spirit, which is God, is also called ancestral memory. Did you know that? You know that, right? God is called your ancestral memory. Hence I said you have your lower self and your higher self. The all-knowing self, which is God, is your ancestral memory. You have biological ancestors, and spiritual ancestors. But I don't want to get into that right now. So by virtue of that logic, ancestors couldn't be demonic. It's just a ploy to keep us at bay and so that we stay like deficient of knowledge of self.
Oh, another question is that is there morality without religion?
Morality without religion? That sounds like a ridiculous question. Yeah, well, but yeah, I'll go ahead and answer it. Morality has nothing to do with religion. Religions are the most unjust, the most immoral institutions there is out there. The Catholic Church, sanctions slavery. Where's the morality in that? The NG, what's it? NG Kerk, apartheid, until sanctioned the apartheid. Christianity sanctions slavery. I just said a few moments ago, slave, obey your master. So morality is inherently not the property of religion. It couldn't. Morality is an inborn thing. It's the God inside of you speaking to you. But we tend to ignore God because we've been bombarded with a sense of of being fearful, because God comes to us in many faces, comes to us in our dreams, comes in us in terms of our imagination. God is alive inside of us, because the enemy races have told, one of the greatest and most disingenuous lies these races have ever told us is that you must fear God. Once you start fearing God, you start disconnecting your relationship with God, then you basically relegate your relationship with God to the realm of believing, not ever knowing God. It's possible to know God. There are people who know God, who have become God himself. You understand me? So morality has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. Morality, of course, there's different degrees to the perception of morality, what morality is. If I stole my grandmother's sugar, I know that's wrong. No one can teach me that. If I see a tiny bark and squish it deep down, I know that's not okay. You understand me? If I shoot a man dead, I know that's not okay. Of course, those are extremes, the bark and the man, but nonetheless, it's morality. It doesn't matter the degree of transgression. You understand me? So morality is not a property of religion. Religion, in fact, has used morality selectively to its own benefits when it sees it fit. You understand me? So morality has nothing to do with religion.
But is religion like a factor contributing to ethics, the way in which a person?
No, it's marketed as such. It's marketed as such because people have been without a knowledge of self for a long time. Like I said, if you're gonna look at the I'm looking for a fitting word, can I say the institutionalization of morals, the intellectualization of morals, and to make morals also religious at the same time. I'm trying to have an abstract noun for religious. I can't even say the word, but to make something religious, like I said, because what those in power have done, they have intellectualized morals, they have institutionalized morals, have made morals a part of religion. Religion, I'm losing my train of thought now. What was the question again?
Like, is it contributing to ethics?
Yeah, no. Religion is not contributing to ethics. For instance, you have company ethics. For instance, if you're working, what does a religion have to do with company ethics? At work they'll tell you about work ethics. These are the company's ethics. Does not have to do with Christianity, because there's diverse groups. There's Muslims, there's Christians, there's but they don't take from a specific religion. They know what's right and wrong. People know what's right and wrong. I'm not sure if I make sense, my dog.
Usually, it was part of the way you conduct yourself. What contributes to that, or like what is where does that come from?
How one carries themselves.
Yes.
How one carries themselves. It's the culmination of one's character traits. Behavior is a reflection of character traits. Now, we live in a system that propagates materialism. Success is viewed as how much material you can hoard, accumulate. But the gravest crimes of this system, of the enemy races, is the neglection of character. Character has many aspects that could feel library is just one aspect of character that can fill an entire library. If you were to dig deep and delve into it, it takes serious learning in a real life setting, not in some closed up classroom that's against the nature of kids, because kids don't like that to be cooked up in classrooms. Understand? It goes against the human nature, but it prepares you, just to digress a little, for the whole 9 to 5 thing. So by the time you go to work, you don't feel any type of way by being closed up from 8 to 5 at work. So it prepares you as a kid. But point is, catch me again with the train of thought. Catch me again with that train of thought.
Oh, question. Well, like your personal.
Your character. Character. So, for instance, you have responsibility as a trait of character, to be responsible. Have you ever been sat down and worked through a rigorous curriculum yourself at what it means to be responsible? Don't have to answer that. To be passionate, to have tenacity, to have respect. Those are all character traits. There's a number of character traits that make up a human being. If any of those character traits are not present in your character, that's going to be a reflection of a disease sooner or later. Self-control is one of the biggest character traits lacking in people today, because the education system neglects character. What does most disease come about as a result of lack of self-control? It's a simple thing that's mental. Doesn't make sense though. But if you lack self-control, what's going to happen? You're going to become gluttonous. You're going to eat anything and everything. And then eventually something mental is going to what you see as diseases is just a manifestation, of deficient characters, mental instability. You understand me? As soon as you start having diabetes, what does that mean? It means that you are never taught how to control yourself. As soon as you start being cruel, that's lack of compassion. That means the character trait called compassion, you're never taught. So I said, you don't just tell kids how to be compassionate. You show them. Hence I said kids learn in a real life setting. Until you can incorporate books into it, fine, but you must also lead by example. So most people, Ntola, do not understand that how you carry yourself is a direct projection of your character, which is a character is a series of aspects. I think about, if I'm not mistaken, about 144,000 aspects of character there is. That's what makes you a god eventually. Once you've mastered yourself to such an extent that you've incorporated into your character all of those 144 aspects of character, then you become God inherently. Sounds ridiculous. There are ways to achieve that, but they require ritualistic settings, rituals. Rituals are a part of us as a people. Now we're religious, we're no longer spiritual. Understand me? And once we turn our backs on rituals, then that's the fall of the people. The word spirit is a combination of spirit and ritual, spiritual. So on a daily basis, it's important to conduct rituals. Black people undermine their own rituals. That's why we're a starving race. We're a violent race, because we've been infiltrated and subscribed to the ideas of an enemy race. Our ancestors lived daily, ritualistically, performed rituals. Now we've reduced rituals into the white man taught us that rituals are a primitive thing. Actually, rituals are in fact a form of technology. You understand? The highest form of technology is. You understand me? Because rituals speak to the spirit and the mind. So it's an important thing to be ritualistic. If you see undo pashayo, that's all we know. Nowadays we only know the remnants, the vestiges, the pieces of spirituality. Pasha is a very important thing for a black person. To sit down and speak to your ancestors on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. To ignore that is to ignore your own future and the future of the generations to come and put them at risk. You understand me? So you must be spiritual as a black person. These other races cannot be spiritual. I'll say something very, very controversial, but it's the truth. It might be construed as racism because they also use racism to gaslight us. They gaslight us in such an extent that we cannot speak against their injustice or speak against ideas they don't agree with. They'll say we're racist. It's like a man that has raped a chick, and when the chick starts coming into a sense, I'm leaving you, the guy starts making the victim feel bad, and the victim gives into the abuser again. I think there's a word for that. It's called Stockholm syndrome, when the victim falls in love with the perpetrator. Do you understand me? So that's what they do to us. If you speak against white supremacy, the evils of white supremacy, what do the enemy races do? Say online or any other spaces, say, get over it. You guys love victimization. You're such victims. They're gaslighting us, to make someone feel bad about speaking against an injustice on them. That's what they do. So, my brother, be a spiritual man. I don't recommend for any dark-skinned person. And other races can do whatever they want because it's their gods, but not ours. A black man must be as spiritual as possible and speak to God on a daily basis. And there's a thin line between God and ancestors. Sooner or later, I don't want to get into that. Maybe we can have some other time.
Definitely.
Some other time we can sit down and speak about the difference between God and spirituality. You know, I mean ancestors. That's one of the same thing, but there's thin lines. I'm talking there's a thin line between the two. Yeah, that's what's up.
Thank you. That'll be all for today. That'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you have it, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. It was a very controversial topics, radical, and yeah.
And very interesting as well.
This is Let's Talk.
Signing out.